The San Antonio Spurs have beaten the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference semifinals, while the New York Knicks are on an 11-game winning streak, and these two teams will face each other in the NBA Finals for the 2026 season. And this is the tactical analysis and preview of this series, and probably a really spectacular one. So let's get into the real analysis. Victor Wembanyama will probably be on Josh Hart, as many analysts and journalists have already said. Or if Josh Hart shoots particularly well during this series, Wembanyama could be roaming of the corner man, just like it happened with the Oklahoma City Thunder when Alex Caruso shot particularly well in the series, because having Wembanyama on Karl Anthony Towns would mean defending outside of the paint for him, so outside of his comfort zone, outside of the three-point line, especially since the New York Knicks are attacking with Karl Anthony Towns at the top of the key, more as a primary ball handler, as a passer, while the other players are setting screens, are moving off the ball, are cutting. So for these reasons, having Wembanyama on Karl Anthony Towns might not be the best solution for the San Antonio Spurs, that they want to clog the paint, they want to protect the rim, and if you have a player like Victor Wembanyama on your roster, you obviously want to keep him as close to the rim as possible to take away the best and most efficient shot in basketball, which is a shot taken in the paint, and a shot that the New York Knicks love to take, especially since they've changed their offensive system from the fourth game of the series against the Atlanta Hawks in the first round of these playoffs. But on the other hand, talking once again about Victor Wembanyama, who will be the focal point of the series, just like he was in the series against the Oklahoma City Thunder, but just like he is in basically every series that he plays in, because his impact both on offense and on defense, due to his obvious physical characteristics, is very important to set your game plan on. So on the other hand, Wemby could be guarded by OG Anunoby, as it happened also in the regular season and in some games, with Karl Anthony Towns ready to help, because having Towns to guard directly Victor Wembanyama could not be the best solution, because Towns has different characteristics from Wembanyama, so he might be better against players like Nikola Jokic, as we saw in the series against the Denver Nuggets when he played for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and he did a really good job. He stood his ground with his physicality against the former MVP, but Victor Wembanyama is a completely different player, and that is also a reason why someone like Alex Caruso, who did a hell of a job against Nikola Jokic, couldn't do the same for OKC against Victor Wembanyama. And that's the reason why the Thunder, for example, changed their game plan after the game one loss. So switching from having J-Dub and Alex Caruso to guard Victor Wembanyama to utilizing Isaiah Hartenstein more against the French center. But talking about all the other matchups, if we start with the Spurs on offense and the Knicks on defense, I expect De'Aaron Fox and Stephon Castle guarded by Josh Hart and Michael Bridges, while Jalen Brunson could probably be assigned to Devin Vassell, and Julian Champagny could be guarded by Karl Anthony Towns, and this way he could help, especially off the corner, since Champagny is a player that likes to play in the corner because of how the offensive system of the San Antonio Spurs is set, and this is his position, and the position where he usually punishes the tags, the helps, and all the other defensive tactics against the Spurs guards or Victor Wembanyama. So I expect Julian Champagny a lot in the corner, and I expect Karl Anthony Towns helping a lot of Champagny, maybe even betting on his 3-point percentages like the Oklahoma City Thunder did in some games during the last series. Plus, having Jalen Brunson on Devin Vassell and Karl Anthony Towns on Julian Champagny would mean not having for the San Antonio Spurs the possibility to put both Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns in the pick-and-roll action, because that would mean having Devin Vassell as the ball handler and Julian Champagny as the roller, which would not be a really efficient option for the San Antonio Spurs offense. While if you put Jalen Brunson on a point guard like De'Aaron Fox and Karl Anthony Towns on a center like Victor Wembanyama, a Fox-Wemby pick-and-roll would be way more effective and efficient than a Vassell-Champagny pick-and-roll. And that is another reason why I think that these matchups would work. And lastly, Victor Wembanyama could probably be guarded by OG Anunoby, as I said earlier. But on the other end of the floor, so with the Knicks on offense and the Spurs on defense, I expect Stephon Castle on Jalen Brunson doing the same physical job that he did against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the Western Conference Finals. I expect Victor Wembanyama on Josh Hart, so roaming off of him and kind of letting him shoot from three, so testing his 3-point percentages. And if Josh Hart cannot knock the threes down in this series, he may see his minutes reduced in favor of someone like Landry Shamet or Miles McBride, even Jose Alvarado. So Hart's 3-point percentages will be a key to this series and to these matchups. I see De'Aaron Fox on Michael Bridges, because this will not be a clear mismatch in favor of the Knicks player. I see Devin Vassell on OG Anunoby and Julian Champagny on Karl Anthony Towns, because Victor Wembanyama, as I said earlier, should not be on Karl Anthony Towns. So the other biggest player in the Spurs lineup is Julian Champagny, and this is a mismatch, and Karl Anthony Towns could utilize it via post-ups and receiving the ball as close to the basket as he can, so he might attract some help, and his passing abilities could be utilized to kick the ball out to his teammates, to the shooters. So this is something to definitely keep an eye on. So as I said earlier, the Knicks will probably utilize Karl Anthony Towns at the top of the key more after Jalen Brunson came back to his standard usage percentage in the series against the Cleveland Cavaliers, because they had a defensive target. Speaking of Cleveland, well, an offensive target, if I speak about the New York Knicks, in James Harden, while in this series there is not a real target for the New York Knicks to attack with the pick-and-rolls, especially if the coverage is the switch. So that's why I think that we will see the New York Knicks back with Karl Anthony Towns handling the ball at the top of the key or outside of the 3-point perimeter in general, while the Spurs could go back to playing a lot of post-ups for Victor Wembanyama, especially if he's guarded by OG Anunoby, as it happened in Game 1 against OKC when he was guarded by J-Dub and Alex Caruso, so, as I said before. But I also see a lot of pick and rolls with Wembanyama as a screener if he's defended by OG Anunoby, because Anunoby can stop him from rolling to the basket and catching some alley-oop pass, especially if they're thrown high up in the air, where only Wembanyama could catch this. So I see Towns tagging the roller, who is Wembanyama in this case, but that means having Julian Champagny in the corner, as I said before, so his percentages will be a real factor in this series, just like Josh Hart's 3-point percentages on the other for the other team would be really crucial. And I can see Coach Mitch Johnson using a similar coverage and type of defense against Jalen Brunson as he did against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the previous series. But I don't mean having the Knicks superstar double teamed and trapped early in the action, because that would mean conceding an early advantage to the opposing offense, and that is not what you want to concede, especially at this stage of the playoffs. Also because the Knicks have some really good decision makers other than Jalen Brunson. They know how to capitalize on some advantages with the ball on their hands. So conceding a 4 against 3 is not the ideal scenario for the San Antonio Spurs defense. But when Jalen Brunson attacks one-on-one, the nearer defenders can stunt on him and then recover on their defensive assignment. They could use Wembanyama double teaming on empty sides of the floor if he is isolating on an empty side. So I think that this coverage could work on Jalen Brunson, as it worked against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for a good part of the series. The last factor that I want to mention is Mitch Robinson, who is doubtful for game 1 for a pinky finger injury, but he's one of the best players in the league against Victor Wembanyama, so his minutes will probably be very important for the New York Knicks, and he might be the X factor of this series if he can do a great job on Victor Wembanyama and maybe keep him under his usual averages. And we know that the San Antonio Spurs struggle a lot when Victor Wembanyama is not at his best, especially offensively. You know, he also have a huge impact on non-trackable numbers, on the things that don't go in the box scores, but keeping Wembanyama off the box score, we can say, could be a really good advantage for the New York Knicks, especially because we saw Wembanyama struggling sometimes in the series against the Thunder when he had to isolate and to create his own shot. He struggled sometimes against Isaiah Hartenstein, who is a very physical center, just like Mitchell Robinson, but Mitchell Robinson has longer arms and a different mobility from Isaiah Hartenstein. So I think that he could do even better job than the Thunder center. So I'm very curious to see how things will develop, especially on the tactical side. Mitch Johnson and Mike Brown are two very good coaches, but we already knew that even before the start of these playoffs. And that was all for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to support this channel, you can check the useful link section in the video description. You can positively interact with this video with a like, a comment, some high points, or whatever you want. You can also subscribe to this channel, become a premium member if you want to, turn on the notification bell. You know, everything is well accepted if you want to support this young project and this channel. But I hope you will also enjoy this 2026 NBA Finals, and see you in the next video.